Hey, beautiful people. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome back to Sensible Decor. Thank you for stopping by my channel. If you are new to the channel, I say welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber, I say welcome back to you. Today is just a quick video on how to create the easiest. I've been getting some questions on what's the easiest turner cup to make, alcohol ink cup to make, and also a cup for men. And so I'm just gonna bring you along as I show you a simple, easy technique to create a tumbler that doesn't have a lot of color, doesn't have the mica powders and the glitters and whatnot, which you would not want for men. So as you can see, I have one here that could be used for a man. It can be a little busy. It does have some of the mica powders and in there, no glitter, but some of the mica powders, which can give it a shimmery look. But I'm going to show you a technique that you can use for men, and it's just a couple colors. It's a very simple, easy tumbler, and it doesn't have all of the glitter and mica powders that you would normally use. So for this tumbler, I just basically spray painted my tumbler black using the Rust-Oleum 2X gloss. If you don't have gloss, that's fine. But I spray painted my tumbler black to give it a black base. And this is actually a oops tumbler. So this is one that didn't turn out the way that I wanted to turn out, and I went back and just spray painted it black to give it a black base. And I do have my epoxy. I do use the KS resin epoxy. I will pop a picture in of the epoxy that I prefer to use. 2 parts mixed up. I used about 20 mLs, or I'm sorry, 15 mLs of A, 15 mLs of part B mixed together. And I have a cup here that I'm going to separate a little bit out, and this is going to be for some white epoxy that I'm going to drizzle onto the cup. So the first thing I'm going to do now that I have my epoxy mixed together is I'm just going to take out a little bit to be able to drizzle some white. And I don't need much because I'm not going to use much white. And so that should be enough. And the remainder of this, I am going to just drop some black in, and I'm using the Pinata black. And the other colors that I'm using are just some greens. I have a few different greens. I have a Pinata Rainforest green. I have a Let's Resin just plain green. I have a Picasso emerald green. So 3 different shades of green. I got some others sitting off to the side that I may drop in, but basically just green and a little white. And so I'm just taking my black and I'm dropping a few drops right into my epoxy to tint my epoxy. 1, 2. So that's 2 drops. And I'm gonna give this a good mix. And as you can see, my epoxy is now black. So now that I have this mixed up, we're just gonna begin with covering the tumbler with this black epoxy that we're using as a tint. And this is so that it serves as the base coat for the cup. Now, one thing I am going to do is so that it's not so hard to get my epoxy on, because you'll feel that the cup is really rough. But I am going to just heat my cup up for a few seconds just so that my epoxy will spread easier. But what I'm gonna do is take this epoxy, get the epoxy well coated. Over the tumbler. Don't forget your bottoms. Don't forget your edges. And you want a good coat because you want your epoxy, your alcohol inks to be able to move. And so you don't want it too thin. The thinner your epoxy, the less movement that you're gonna get with your alcohol inks. The thicker the epoxy, the more movement you're gonna get. The key is finding the balance in between. So I am using all of this, and I feel like the cup is totally covered. So with that said, the next step is to begin with your alcohol inks. I'm just gonna give all of my inks a good shake. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop my white into my epoxy. And all we're doing is dropping a couple drops, about 3 drops, into the epoxy. And giving it a good mix. Okay, you can let that set off to the side. So I'm gonna begin with my Pinata Rainforest Green. I'm just gonna begin dropping. Now with this black, it's gonna be hard to see. It's a little easier in person. You can see where the alcohol ink is dropping, but we're just gonna use that one. We're gonna come back with the emerald green. And then lastly, with just the green. All right, so we got a lot of green on there. Now here's where the magic occurs, because at this point you can't see any of the colors on there. You can't see how much you have or where it actually is. But once we come in with this white, and I'm just gonna take and I'm not doing a lot, but as we drizzle this white on, and I don't want too much white, so that's why I'm kind of being a little easy, or should I say light-handed with it. And don't forget your bottom. Okay. All right. So I think that that is enough white. For right now. Now what I am going to do is come back with my emerald green. And I'm just going to drop it just on top of some of these white spots. Alright, now we are going to come in with just a little bit of heat and just see what kind of swirls we can get. Just to heat it up just a little bit. And I can see that some of my green is turning a little blue, which is not what I was going for. And so I'm not sure which green is giving it that effect. And this is actually making it green. All right, so a little bit more heat, and then we're gonna give it some swirl. I'm gonna do just a little bit more white. So I'm going to use one of these greens on top of these blues. And now we're going to encourage some movement. So carefully removing this from the spinner, and then I'm just tilting it up to encourage some movement, and then back down. Okay, so up and down. All right, so we're gonna put this back on the spinner, and now if I want to come in with a little bit more green in spots, I can. And I'm going to do just a little bit more white, because you'll notice that the white has sunk below the color. Alright, so I'm liking this, but what we're going to do is hit it with a little bit more heat and then just leave it. And that's going to be pretty much it. After it spins for a while, we'll come back and see what color we get. Alright, so I'm going to take it off my spinner one more time to encourage some additional movement. And then we're gonna be done. And be careful getting it off the spinner. And again, down. And then up, down, up, down. Okay. And then back on the spinner. Carefully. Alright, so we're just gonna let this spin and see what colors we get. Green is what I was going for, the green and the black. Smoky type, lava type effect. Nothing is too busy because it's for a man. It doesn't have the glitter. It doesn't have the mica powders in there. And let's see if I have any other greens that I can add. I'm just dropping it where I see the blue. And that is giving me alright guys, so I'm not gonna mess with this too much. I'm gonna leave it be. And we'll see what comes out of it. But I'm liking the black and the smoky effect. If you see any areas where you have missed, or you want some more coverage, then just go ahead and drop a couple more drops in. But other than that, this is pretty much it. Okay, so We'll come back after I let this spin for about 12 hours. My room is pretty hot, so it really won't take 12 hours. I'll say about 8 hours. We'll come back and see what it looks like. At that point, we should be able to sand it if it needs sanding. If not, we can add another load of epoxy, put our decal on it, put another load of, let me go back. If it needs sanding, you have rough spots, then what you're going to do is sand it, put a load of epoxy on it, let that load dry, and then go to your decaling. If it's fine after we come back and it doesn't need any sanding, it's smooth, then what we'll do is throw a decal on, whatever you're going to do, add a load of epoxy, and then you should be done. If you need a second load to make sure that that decal is well sealed in, then you would do a second load of epoxy. Or third option is you like the way that this comes out once it's done spinning, and you don't want a decal, then you would just add a load of epoxy to seal in your alcohol inks, let it spin, and then you'd be done. Okay, so we'll come back after this is spent on the spinner, has turned on the spinner for at least 8 hours, and then we'll see where we're going from there. So I'll be with you, get back to you soon, and until we meet again, peace. So guys, I'm back. The tumbler came out absolutely gorgeous, but it does require a light sanding. So I am going to lightly sand it. I'm going to put another load of epoxy on it, let it dry, and then I'll come back and I'll place my decal. So I'll bring you in close so that you can see what it's looking like while I'm applying the epoxy, and so you can see just how beautiful of a coverage we got. So I'll be right back and we'll get the decal on. So guys, I am back, and as you can see, I am just applying my decal. My second load of epoxy covered up everything, and my tumbler is nice and smooth. So I just applied my decal on where I wanted it to be. And after my decal is on, I do a little touch up on the tumbler just to get off fingerprints and any epoxy that may have, anything that's transferred to the tumbler, just to make sure that it's nice, smooth, and clean. And so what I've done is I've dabbed some alcohol on a paper towel, and I'm just kind of spot cleaning the tumbler to make sure that all fingerprints, dust, anything that may have gotten on the tumbler while I'm putting on my decal is off my tumbler before I put on the other decal, and as well as before I do my epoxy. I don't want to seal in fingerprints or debris or dust that has made it to the tumbler. So over there on the side, I'm just brandishing my decal, getting it ready to put onto my tumbler. And I'm just going to put that decal on, and once I get all of my decals on, then we can move to the next stage, which is going to be epoxy in the tumbler, sealing and everything. So here I'm just placing my decal where I want it, checking for spacing. It may be easier to take the tumbler off of the spinner. I've done this so many times that I knew where I wanted that to be. I wanted it to sit kind of low. And I have another decal that I'm going to put on the tumbler. So I'm just putting my decal on, checking everything out, and then I'll place the remaining decal on the tumbler. So here I am placing my final decal on. This tumbler, the customer wanted some dollar signs on there. And so I just placed the dollar signs between the front and the back of the tumbler so that it's going down the side, just to create a little division there. Now my decal is on my tumbler. I am going to begin epoxying the tumbler. And so I'm just going to give this a nice coat, taking my time to make sure that all of my letters are sealed in, that I'm applying epoxy to all of the letters. Now I do have this sped up, so this is going a little faster than what I am actually doing, but I'm just basically applying epoxy over the entire tumbler, trying to make sure that anywhere that there is a decal, that I am kind of filling to make sure that epoxy is covering that decal. Now I'm just going to apply a little bit of heat to bust any air bubbles, and then let this spin for about another 12 hours, and then we'll be done. So if you like this, be sure to hit the like, the share, and subscribe button, and then we will come back with the finished product. All right, guys, so here it is. It turned out beautiful. This is a nice smoky black and green tumbler, perfect for a male, for a man, not too busy, not too sparkly or anything like that, but just a smoky black epoxy tumbler. So be sure to hit the like, the share, and subscribe button, and until we meet again, peace.